Hey Bruins, and welcome back to the BruinCast. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome to the finale. Guys, finals is almost here, so you're doing great. Hang in there. Before we get to finals week, though, we do have a special surprise for you. Maybe our most prestigious guest yet, the principal of Ponderosa. Welcome, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Kyle. I don't count myself as all that prestigious, but I appreciate the welcome and the introduction.
Well, thank you for your time today on the show.
Of course.
How you doing?
It's great. It's an exciting time of year. It's winding down the semester. I think all of our students are going to be surprised when they come back from Thanksgiving break that December is upon us and finals will be 2 weeks of class and then finals. So it's winding down pretty quick. So
pulling back the curtain a bit, you guys are going to hear this a week before finals, but we're recording before Thanksgiving break. So a bit of a time difference there.
Sorry, I ruined your podcast already.
Dang it. No, it's kind of fun though. So we don't like to assume that people know what teachers teach, but being the principal, everyone has a generic idea of what your job is, but there's a lot of details I'm sure people don't know. So do you want to go into specifically what do you do here?
Yeah, when people ask me what I do, it's really difficult to answer because it's so broad. I mean, you could do anything from working on budgets to working with the teacher on an evaluation to a student issue, an athletics issue, facilities, challenges, or an emergency like we had last week, or we're evacuating a school. And so it's just a little bit of everything. I think as far as what my main purpose is, though, is supporting the systems or helping improve and build the systems that allow teachers to teach at their best and for students to learn at their best and for all the things that we want to take place for kids, whether it's clubs, extracurriculars, athletics, academics, post-secondary opportunities. We want all that stuff to be available and function as well as possible. So within that realm, there's just so many little things, but that's kind of the big picture.
So how long have you taught Pondo as a teacher? Not taught, but how long have you been a principal here?
So this is my 6th year as principal, my 18th year at Ponderosa. So prior to principal, I was assistant principal for 9 years, and then I was director of guidance for 3 years prior to that. And prior to being at Ponderosa, I was at Center High School as a counselor and as a college career coordinator. And then prior to that, I taught public speaking at Sac State for a couple of years. And had a few other jobs in education, but that's kind of my
You did a lot.
Yeah, that's kind of my main
It's funny you
history.
say you're not that prestigious, and then your answer is basically, I do everything.
Well, just because you're the jack of all trades, master of none, does not mean you are also on a throne, right? So it doesn't mean you're prestigious, just means you do a lot of stuff, but I appreciate that. It's the challenge, since you bring that up, the challenge of being principal really is having to respond to situations where everyone expects you to have an answer about everything. And, it's just one school. It's just one place out of many in our country and in the world. It's just one small spot. But there's so much that goes on that it's impossible for one person to know. And so you just hope that everybody else is doing their piece, which they are here typically, and you refer them out. When somebody comes and says, hey, I need to know some specific thing about, CSF or band or football. We have a coach, we have an advisor, and they're the experts. I kind of have a general idea of what, is going on most of the time, but we have experts that help us do those things, and, staff members and coaches that help arrange those programs and do them very well. So that helps as my job as principal, is having these great people in these positions that support students every day.
So throughout your time here, you mentioned that a big part of your job is creating an environment where students can be safe and learn, that students can teach. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things you're most proud of that you've helped work with at Pondo to create and foster that environment?
So the first one that comes to mind is the development and implementation of flex time. So we started that. We intended to start it in 2021, but that was a pandemic year, and so we postponed it till 21-22. We did it for seniors will remember. We did it for a year 2 times a week, and then teachers wanted to do it 4 times a week, so we switched to 4 times a week. But there was a lot of work for a number of years that went into that. We just didn't come together as a staff one day and say, hey, let's change the bell schedule and we'll have flex time. This is what it'll look like. It was a good 5-year process of going to other schools, seeing what they do, looking at the needs of our population, developing parameters about how this would work and expectations, not just for students, but for teachers and what would be required and not required. And so there was a lot of a lot of different opinions and desires and what that would be. I think everybody recognized that there's some good to it on many levels. And so it's interesting because the first year we did flex time, excuse me, the juniors and seniors, I think, were kind of like, what is this? What are we doing? Because they never had it before. And now I think if you talk to most students, they'd be, most juniors, they would say, I can't live without flex time. Not all of them, but there's a lot of why I really need that time to do my homework so that when I get home from practice at 9 o'clock at night, I'm not sitting down to do my assignments. Or, I appreciate the time to catch up with the teacher on what my assignments were, or I can spend time working with a peer on my project. And so I think that's been a huge opportunity. And it's not perfect. It doesn't do everything we would like it to do right now, but it's an opportunity for us to use that time to continually improve students and improve academic outcomes. So that would be my first one. Shall I go on?
Yeah, if you want to, yeah.
That was just one. And sorry, I'm a little long in the tooth, long-winded, but there's a few others, things we've done. I think really, Kyle, the most important thing that I look back on is the people that we've put in place. When you look at the coaches we've hired and the teachers we've hired and the people that are in leadership positions, they're the ones that really help make a positive place and a positive change. I look at some of the teachers we've hired in the last few years that are Ponderosa graduates, and not to demean, people that didn't go to school who are here or, teachers that have been here longer. But yeah. The point is the additions we have made have just been exceptionally positive. You look at some of our new young teachers, and I shouldn't mention names because then I'll leave somebody out. But, like Mrs. Iden went to school here. She's a new teacher. Mr. Corey went to school here. He's a new teacher. Mrs. Yorba went to school here. She's a new teacher. Mrs. Klinghammer went to school here. She's a new teacher. And there's many others that I could go on that understand who we are, what our values are, and that, right, wrong, or indifferent, and maybe a little conceited, we feel like we do things a little bit better, or at least want to do them better. And they came to us with that culture already. So that's a positive thing I would like to think I've had an impact on.
Well, and we've had the privilege of, you're our 16th guest on the podcast. We've interviewed teachers, counselors. We got to interview Mission Talkie. Like, we've had a variety of people on. And every time we interview, we walk away and we're taken aback by how much these people care about the students, care about what they do. And they're not just here for money. They want to be, or they want to help the community. So you've done it, or your whole team has done a great job of fostering that environment.
Thank you. Yeah, I can guarantee you none of us are here for the money.
Well, true, because it's.
I mean, everyone has a job, right? But and nobody's coming here just because to help kids. It's the bonus of the job, right? You get to have a job, a career, and do something that has a positive impact on the community for decades, right? I mean, how long, as long as you guys are around, that's going to be longer than us, and that's going to be the impact that we are able to have on society and on our community. Many of you will come back to live and work in this community, just like many of your teachers have, and so that's the positive impact. And there is something, an intrinsic value to going home at night and thinking, I was able to help someone today. I was able to benefit someone's future today. And especially a young person who, I remember when I was your age, sometimes you think you know what you're going to do, but you're really not sure. And so that opportunity to help guide or nudge in the right direction is really, really cool.
So going back to another thing, when you're talking about Flex, you mentioned that in creating the program, one of the things you did was kind of talk to other schools and you looked at what they did. It's what can you take from them? As a principal, how much do you communicate with other schools in the districts to kind of inform what you do here?
Some. It's a good question. So there is a principals council once a month where all the principals in the district get together and we talk about current issues and things that are going on at the sites. And then from time to time, I communicate fairly regularly with the other principals. We'll just bounce a problem off each other. Like I said a minute ago, and I know it sounds conceited, but we as a school like to think that we do things fairly well. It doesn't mean we can't learn things from other people, but we feel like we're doing things, pretty good most of the time. The other schools that we visited had intervention systems in place that we just had not been able to implement for whatever reason. And so we, like Vista del Lago High School had a flex time prior to us. Folsom High School had a similar intervention period a little bit different the way it worked and what students did during that and how they traveled from place to place during that period. But we looked at it. We went to Southern California to Lucerna High School. They had a very in-depth program that would have been very difficult to run on our bell schedule. But yeah, we looked around, and one thing I found in education is that everybody is very, very willing to help each other out. You know, we like, hey, can I come see your school? Absolutely. Like, we're proud to show off our school. Everybody feels that way. And so it's nice to work in a community of people who all are in the business of helping people, because they'll help you too.
Yeah.
So
both ways,
that's been great.
So taking a step back then, is education something you always knew you wanted to be in, or how did you find your way into this path?
That's a good question. So when I was in college, I thought that I wanted to teach at the college level for a long time. Right? That's what I saw myself doing. I would love to teach at a community college or pursue a PhD in something and teach at the university level. And that's how I started. I started doing that, right? I told you at Sac State, I was teaching public speaking. And I enjoyed the curriculum and the process of, teaching, but I found myself after a short time just really not enjoying the job itself, and I really was not sure what was missing, why. I was still pretty young, and so I went off and did a couple things, just different businesses, trying different careers, and then I came back to education as a college career coordinator at Center High School, and that's when I realized that it was the clientele. Nothing against college freshmen, but they come into your class for a semester for 15 weeks. They're checking a box, right? And then they're moving on. You get to know them a little bit. You don't get to know their families. You don't get to know what their extracurriculars are, if they have any. It's just a different kind of vibe. And at the high school level, you're guaranteed to see kids for 4 years, right, on campus, because it's a smaller environment. You get to know their family. You get to know their siblings. And so it's just a different culture of intimacy is probably not the right word, but of getting to know somebody on a different level, right, and having a higher impact on their life, instead of just I'm working with widgets on assembly line, people like a credit mill.
Yeah.
So it was that culture of high school, and I thought, if I had started my teaching career at the high school level, I would have taught for much, much longer, because I got that feel at the high school, like, yeah, this is my place, and I've been at high schools ever since.
It makes sense. It would be more fulfilling being able to see a student across 4 years, how they grow, how they improve, how you can help them. So that's neat.
Yeah, we've had families come through that have 4 or 5 siblings over a 15-year period, right? And so you get to really know that family, and that's a great thing. It's really cool.
So Pondo's a very special place. If you had to leave Pondo, or something happened to Pondo, where else in the country would you want to teach? Do you have any other spots that you'd be interested in being?
Well, I've not thought about that. I think El Dorado County it's a really unique place to be. I mean, it's kind of like a little bubble. It has a unique history, not just in this area, but in the state, in the country. As with the gold rush history. It's a great community to raise kids. It would be very difficult to leave this place, and I feel like Ponderosa is kind of my second home. I wasn't raised in this county. I was raised in Northern California, but not in this county. But I feel very at home here. My family loves it here, and so I don't know. That's a good question. And if I was to leave the state, I'd have to re-credential into another state.
True.
So I'm not sure what that would look like. But I really haven't pondered that much.
So obviously, principal is a very busy job. But when you're not, on duty, what do you do in your free time?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a gardening nerd. I like to go home.
Mr. Thomas, he mentioned this. You grow tomatoes.
He's a gardening nerd too. Yeah. Last 2 years I give Mr. Thomas tomato seedlings that I've grown from seed, and so because we both like to geek out on special varieties of tomatoes. I know it's very geeky. Sorry, but
I love that.
Yeah. So there is something very therapeutic about going home and getting your hands dirty, like digging in the dirt. So if I only have a few minutes after work before I have to go do something else, sometimes I'll go outside still dressed for work and find a small task to do in the garden or the yard that maybe only takes 5 or 10 minutes. Maybe it's like burying some compost from the kitchen, and so I'm digging in the dirt for a minute, or pulling some weeds, or picking some flowers, cutting some flowers, whatever. But I find that very therapeutic to be out there by myself, just me and the dirt and the hummingbirds and the bees. It's pretty nice sometimes. So I do garden.
So what's your perfect garden fit then? Like
What's the question?
What's your perfect garden fit? Like what clothes would you like? That's the
Oh.
So I got the Gen Z slang in there.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. Sidebar. If you saw my graduation speech from last year,
I did.
Okay, so I can hang a little bit. I can hang a little bit. But I put on my dirty kicks. How's that? Is kicks still a thing?
I don't know. Is it a thing?
It was like 10 years ago. Kicks. No, all right, fine.
I'm proud that I used fit. I don't know I don't know the words either.
Kicks are shoes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all right. 10 years ago.
I don't know if people use it, but I know kicks.
Okay, all right. So I'm not a boomer. I'm just close. Okay. So grungy jeans, dirty shoes, faded T-shirt, and a hat. I always wear a hat of some type to keep the sun out of my face.
Something like a straw hat or like a what?
Both, yeah.
Okay.
If it's really hot outside, I'll use the straw hat. But if it's not too bad, I'll just use ball cap. I have some Pondo caps and stuff. But
Nice.
yeah, so I just get my grungies on, go outside, get dirty.
So, with growing then, like, do you eat your own food or do you sell it or what do you do with it?
Yeah, I don't sell it, but we do eat it. Anybody who thinks they're gonna garden enough to replace their food supply, that's a lot of work and a lot of space. That's very difficult to do. You have to do it because you just like getting outside and growing things. It's very fulfilling, and yeah, it's fun to have your own produce. We have a number of fruit trees in our backyard as well, and so that's really fun, is to have apples or peaches or plums, and then to share them with neighbors and friends, or to preserve them or dry them and have them in the off season. One of the problems, I'll tell you, is like with my apple trees. I have multiple apple trees, and I'm now an apple snob because store-bought apples just aren't the same. They're not sweet. They're not as fresh. You don't realize it until you're able to walk outside, pick your piece of fruit off your tree, and eat it. It's pretty phenomenal. So
This question's going to sound really pretentious. Do you think the fact that you like to, cultivate your garden and watch it grow, does that tie into the fact or the idea that at school you like to help kind of help students grow? Like, is that some similarity there?
I think there's an innate human value in growing things or improving things, or caring for things, I guess is the right word. So it could be. I think seeing obviously humans grow and progress is much more valuable than plants, but there is a very similar feeling of nurturing something, right? And when I took the principal job, someone who'd been a principal prior said to me, you'll probably find that the job has a very parental type of aspect to it. Not that you see yourself better than or commanding of other people, but parental as in you have this great desire to take care of the people that work for you, and you will find yourself, and I've found this, working for them. I serve them. That's how I see myself with my staff. Like, what can I do to serve them today? So, like, for example, today we do a monthly thing called Bruin Friends and Food. So once a month we'll get food and of some type, a treat of some type, go to a classroom. You guys may have seen us out there at various points this year, and teachers and staff can just come during lunchtime, get a treat, hang out. And that's part of serving them, right? We're going to get some treats. Or you've seen the treat trolley. I've been pushing the treat trolley around. That's fun as well. So today we're doing Costco pies and whipped cream, so they can come down and get some piece of pie and hang out. And that's just a little something to say thanks, and we're family.
Just to spice up the monotony.
Yeah. I mean, you guys don't realize it because 30 to 35 kids roll through a classroom 5 times a day. But teaching can become a little lonely because you're in that room, those 4 walls, all day long, and you don't see your peers very often. Like, you sneak out during lunchtime or break time, or maybe after class, or during 7th period if you don't teach a 7th. But like when you're on your prep period as a teacher, it doesn't mean your peers also have the same preparation period all the time. And so it's not lonely as in I don't get enough human interaction. It can be lonely as, when was the last time I actually got an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with one of my coworkers that was fun, productive, and had 20 minutes to it, as opposed to pass them in the hallway saying, hey, did you get my email? So it's nice to create those times for teachers to come together, even if it's only for 25 minutes or half an hour.
I never thought about that as like a side of it, so that makes sense that they would be With teachers, as the principal, do you find yourself communicating with every single teacher, or do you mostly communicate with the department heads?
It's mostly with all teachers.
Okay.
Like when I send something out, it's mostly to all teachers. There are some things that go to just the department chairs and say, hey, can you talk with your department about this? But that's typically something that we're going to talk about in our leadership team meeting with department chairs, or that I'm asking them to bring back to a meeting. Like, hey, bounce this off your teachers and we'll come back and discuss it as a group so we can get everybody's input. But typically things go out to the whole staff. So for example, every Monday I send a Monday memo. It's basically a newsletter, and it has like a Monday memo highlight of a staff member. It has a picture of a staff member, fun facts about them, because I have a Google form I send out. Just a few items that are important this week, news items, quote of the week, and then our school goals are always on the left side there, and then just events that are coming up. So that goes to all staff every week as a newsletter from me.
So the idea, like, where did that come from? Having the picture of the staff and.
That was just my idea. I bounced it off my management team several times. Like, when you have 130 employees plus 80 or 90 coaches, there's a lot of people on campus, and if you teach over in the P buildings and then somebody teaches way over in H buildings, the chances of you crossing paths during the day are pretty small, or even during the year, pretty small. So I felt it was important for people to know who works on their campus, and we have some jobs like paraprofessionals who work with some of our students with IEPs. Like, they're moving around campus all the time. So as a teacher, you might see an employee come into your classroom to work with a student, and you don't even know who they are. So I just thought it would be fun to not only identify those people, but to celebrate a little bit who they are. And I've enjoyed it. It's really interesting. I get these surveys back. There's like maybe 35 or 40 questions on there, and they can pick like 10 to answer. And they're just really creative and really fun and really ready to put themselves out there and say, this is who I am, and this is where I went to school, and this is my family. And so it's actually really fun.
That's something that I've noticed about the podcast, is how willing people are to actually talk about themselves, and not that everyone's selfish and wants to talk about themselves, but it's a really unique opportunity to just be able to sit down with a teacher and learn about them. Because you don't really get that in a classroom. The most I get that with is Mr. Beatty going to his room during lunch.
Sure.
But getting to sit down for half an hour and talk with someone and actually learn about them is really, really fun.
There's a funny children's book about that actually that I used to read to my daughter when she was younger, called My Teacher Sleeps in School. Because your reference of teachers is only what you see in the classroom, right? So this in this book, it's animated like elephants or something, as they're just whatever. But the idea is that this student has preconceived notions of what their teacher's life is. So she imagines there's a cot that comes down out of the wall at night and a kitchenette behind the closet door and all this stuff, because her only frame of reference is, I see my teacher in the classroom from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then I go home, but she probably still stays there because that's the only place I see her. But these people have lives, you'll run into them at Costco, you'll see them on the jogging trail, all that kind of stuff. And they have very, very interesting and diverse lives and backgrounds. That's really been what's cool to see. One of the questions on the survey for the Monday Memo highlight is, where'd you grow up, or where were you born? And we have people who are born in a number of different countries, number of different states. It's really phenomenal. It's quite interesting. So,
well, even with the podcast, one of the things we've been most surprised by is we've had several teachers who, when we send them the link to they can listen to us, so they can get a reference for what they're getting into, they'll come to us day of and say, hey, I got to learn about, so-and-so teacher that I've never met before. And so it's for us having this podcast, both letting students get to know their teachers outside the classroom, but then kind of what you did with your memos, having teachers get to know teachers that they don't, like you said, see because they're across the campus. So it's been really fun with this, doing that.
Awesome. I'm glad they've had that opportunity, yeah.
So kind of wrapping up here, looking forward, what are some of the biggest changes we want to make to Pondo that you think could help? That was phrased poorly, but...
I get where you're going. I would say, back to where we started with the flex time, I would love to see us improve our flex time even more, where we're focusing on helping students small groups of students achieve together. So, for example, a teacher's able to bring, 5 to 8 kids into a classroom that are struggling with their Algebra 1 skill test or whatever the case may be. that can be done now. It's difficult on some days because we need seats for kids across flex time. Every teacher can't say I'm only going to take 5 students. That where would all the others go? You multiply that by 70 teachers, you got room for 350 kids, and where are the other 1,250 going to go? So it's a little bit of a challenge, but I would like to see us be able to develop some systems to use our flex time a little bit better. I'm also a believer in the broken window effect, which is when a facility looks good, people treat it good and they act differently when they're in it, right? So I'm always looking at opportunities to improve our facility a little bit. So you see that we have some paint on the sides of the buildings that has been kind of chipping away or flaking away, and I've been all over the district office like, when are we going to get this painted? When are we going to get this painted? And we spend a lot of our time and efforts. It may not seem like it because it's a huge campus, but trying to make small improvements to our campus and keep it clean and keep it updated technologically and with our facilities. So coming up, we're getting a new scoreboard in the stadium, a new all digital screen, which will be nice. The Booster Club's doing that, but we've been working with them on that for a year and a half. The cell towers are going up in the stadium as well, which I know a lot of students are excited about, especially those with AT&T. That's a facilities thing that's coming. We're looking at a few other small things on campus that they might be small, but they do make a difference. So, example, there's a new water filling station at the stadium entrance, right? And ASB is going to help us install another water filling station on campus.
Which, by the way, thank you so much for having those. Like the water bottles, filling them up, it's so much easier and so much better for the environment, not having to waste water bottles. Like it's
for sure. And
it's small, but it's nice.
I think ASB wants to get a refrigerated one a filtered one. That's what it is. They want a filtered water system. So that's what they're going to pay for. But those things might seem kind of small and insignificant, but they do make a difference over time when you make these incremental changes. So for a good example is the Ponderosa Bruins mural right out there. We did that in 23, but that makes such a huge difference to our campus. You can see it out my window right here. It's beautiful. And I have pictures of the quad when that was just a blank wall. And I look at them, wow, it looks so boring out there.
Yeah.
So just industrial. But it just adds so much. So those small things are just huge improvements.
I definitely agree. We've recorded a number of times in front of that mural just because of how...
We like that wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see it on graduation night when all the graduates gather here in their caps and gowns before they go into the gym to get ready for graduation. They'll all be standing there taking pictures in front of that Ponderosa Bruins mural. So it's been great to have. But those are the kind of improvements that I look at with facilities. Lastly, when we talk about improvements, is continually hiring the best people we possibly can to make sure that kids are getting a good education. And one of my efforts in doing that is I don't worry so much about experience. It's not my first thing on my list is, hey, do you have, 8 years of teaching experience and, this kind of credential? I mean, if you have the right credentials, but this kind of degree, or you went to this university. My biggest thing is, do you love kids? Do you want to help people? Are you a good communicator that you can be a good teacher, right? We can teach some of the other stuff, but we can't teach personalities, right? We can't teach them how to like people and how to be open to ideas and open to change and being able to work with others. Those things are a little more intrinsic. There's some development to it, but you've got to come with a certain set of skills. So that's part of my effort as well, is continue to bring on the best people we can.
Well, so as a student, I really appreciate it. It pays off. Like I haven't had a single bad experience with a teacher here. Like it's been wonderful. So.
I'm glad to hear that.
Well, thank you for your time today.
It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you asking me, and I hope we did okay.
Yep. And everyone, good luck with your finals next week. And thank you for listening to the BruinCast. Bye.
See ya.